everyone. The next panel is going to be Powering Global Games, Strategic Investment and Market Dominance. Panelists are Nitish from Nazara, Peter from Slush, Siddharth from PlaySimple, moderated by Imran from Storyboard 18.
Hello everyone. We have three stalwarts of global gaming industry on the stage today with insights on investments, challenges, and what requires, the vision to acquire another gaming company, and what are the strategies that goes into building this multi-million dollar companies in the country. So, I would like to start with Nitish. You know, Nazara went public, right, with their IPO. How does Nazara look like, and the operating structure, and the working style look now after the IPO for you now?
Well, for us at Nazara, right, we've always been evolving over our 2-decade journey. And in the last 7-8 years, we've again evolved or pivoted, I would say, into a different model where, we have a core operating business, but we also invest and acquire many other companies. We've done 14 acquisitions in recent years in what we call a structure called Friends of Nazara, which has worked well for us, worked well for founders, worked well for management teams.
1 second. Is he audible? Can we just increase the volume? It's quite low.
Can you all hear me at the back? Okay, they can hear me.
Sure.
So it's fine. So that models work well for us. It's a very decentralized, autonomous model in which these companies are operating, but on a common platform, on a common vision to make, I would say, India really globally recognized on the map of the gaming world.
And on the contrast, when we see there's Siddharth Jain from PlaySimple Games, who built a gaming company and he sold it off to MTG. How does the working environment look like for you now? Two complete different companies, one who is IPO listed and, the other one who has sold off.
He's smarter than me, I guess.
I wouldn't say that. I think so for us, I think we're a product company, and I'm sure that that's true for others as well. But everybody has a passion around doing something. For us, it was very clear that, hey, we are super focused, we love building products, and we want to continue doing that. I think we see all the hype around running a public company and the stock price and everything, but I'm sure Nitish sort of doesn't enjoy it as much. So I think we were very clear that we want to focus on building games, and we wanted a partner that will allow us to do that. So MTG, the company that we partnered with, they're really, really good, where they allow us complete autonomy. And the last 3.5 years now has panned out like that. Have not been, I think, I could have not asked for any better partners than them in terms of running the business the way I'm running.
Why do you, say that, he's lucky? He's smarter in that sense.
He himself answered.
So what makes it a different ball game altogether, Nitish?
Being public?
No, in terms of operating and, in terms of handling the baby that you have founded.
Well, for me, I started Nazara in college 25 years back, at a time where gaming really didn't exist in our country, right? So it's really been a long journey. I've carried the baby for really long. But it's been a very exciting journey because when I started it, my dream was, I was a gamer at heart. I started playing games at 4. I started coding games in basic language at 7. So gaming was always very dear to me. And when I started the company in college, the whole idea was that the whole dream was that someday gaming will become very big in India. And today, when you see IGDC and these so many young developers and the kind of turnout, with Prime Minister Modi talking about it in the Independence Day speech, I think we've come a long way in these 25 years. I think a lot of macro factors also, whether it's device availability through the mobile phones, fast data, digital payments, etc., right, that have really come together to create this perfect storm. I think we're just getting started. So it's a very exciting space to be. It's a very exciting to be India's only listed gaming company. It's also a big responsibility. And we are enjoying it. It's been 3 years, and we are enjoying every day of it.
I can tell you he's the biggest inspiration to a lot of gaming studios and companies across the country. I think it's just super impressive what they pulled off.
Thank you.
So we have Peter, the founder of Rovio and the Angry Birds game, right? So how do you look at building video games globally, and what is your perspective towards gaming industry in India right now?
Yeah, actually, what I would actually like to do is, so why did you get into gaming? Why did you start?
Because I was having fun.
Yeah.
Playing on an Atari.
Very good. And you?
Well, same. I
Yeah.
enjoyed playing games.
Yeah. So when we talk about the gaming industry here, and it's not my first time in India, so I've been here before many times, even here in Hyderabad. Even though it was a few years before the pandemic, I was here last time. I think, and I mean, I've been following, like Vishal and guys at Indiagdc since 1997 or something like that. So gaming has been around, and mobile gaming has been around in India since quite a while. So it's not like a totally new thing, and you said 25 years, and I think that's pretty typical. And I mean, why I got into gaming is, of course, I love playing games, and for me it was like Commodore 64 and all of that, and that was long time ago, 80s. Most of you people were not even born then. But the thing here is that the point I wanted to make is that there's and I agree, India has come a long way, the world has come a long way when it comes to gaming. But then, I also always have some meetings with, people from government and all of that, not only here in India, but all over the place. And what I always say is that it's not like the government told you that please start making games and start a gaming company and could you please list it and all of that. No, it's actually, it comes from the passion, from the love, and people who love playing games, typically they start games companies. I mean, why Rovio got started was that Niklas, Kim and Jarno took part in a game making competition that I was organizing 2003, long time ago, when our friends at Nokia still were making phones and came out with the first smartphones. And then the guys took part in competition, they won the competition, and they came to me and said, Peter, we're students here at Aalto, we won the competition, what should we do? And I told them that you should do what you love to do. Why don't you start a company to make games? So my point is that governments might think that, oh, we're gonna, make games happen, and we're gonna tell people that please make games. If you try telling young people what to do, guess what? Not gonna happen. So it has to start grassroots. And if you look at, the games industry in Finland, and I think it's very much true here also, it starts with people who love playing games. It starts with the grassroots. And I think that the most important thing, and what I always tell, governments and other people, that it's the job of us, slightly older people, to make sure that we keep governments and old people out of the way while young people change the world and make games. So I think that this is something that we should always keep in mind. But then, that said, it's very important that the governments make sure that we provide our young people with fantastic education so that they actually learn how to make, not just games, I mean, that you can learn yourself also, but it's good if you have, proper education so you know not only how to run or make the games, but how to run the business. I mean, you probably had to learn quite a few things there. You don't get to a listed company by just playing games. So my take on Indian games industry is that we made a lot of progress. I see a lot more. But that's also true everywhere. So I think that there's still a lot to do, and we need to increase the talent density here in India. You have a lot of games companies, but you also have a lot of people. So I think there's a lot that we need to do in that area. But it's a good start, and there's a lot of upside and a lot of potential. So young population, people are playing games, so we've seen nothing yet.
Yeah, talking about government initiatives, we recently saw PM Narendra Modi speaking from the Red Fort about the growth of AVGC sector, etc. And with department DPIIT formulating the 100% FDI in online gaming, how do you look at this initiative? How much investment do you think this initiative will bring, or this policy will encourage foreign investments in the country? Nitish.
Well, I think at a ground level, there's a lot of activity going on and a lot of innovation going on within a lot of entrepreneurs, strong energy. So I think attracting capital is basic. It's going to happen. And you don't really need international capital. India has enough of domestic capital at all levels, whether it's angel or all the way to pre-IPO. So I think you will get international capital. Any policy that helps support it will be helpful. But I think there's enough in the domestic market, enough liquidity and people willing to back. Gaming, I think, has now become more prevalent to investors in the country due to multiple reasons, right? Yeah, please, you want to say something?
Yeah, hey, so one thing, I think that that's absolutely right. I mean, capital moves very easily. And if you look at, like Rovio, you look at Supercell, who did we have as investors? We had Axel, not a Finnish investor. We had Atomico, not a Finnish investor. We had Felicis Ventures, not a Finnish investor. The Supercell guys had like SoftBank, not a Finnish investor. So again, I mean, capital will find the great companies no matter where they are. They can be in Finland, they can be in India, they can be anywhere. Capital is very easy to move. But guess what? The capital will not move if the talent is not there. So the great companies will find the talent no matter where they are. But that's why it's so important that we make sure that we have the grassroots activity and we have the fantastic entrepreneurs, who are making the great games, and we have the great companies. Because without that, I mean, who cares if you get 100% credit? Like, yeah, I have lots of money, where can I put it? Oh, there's nobody here, I'll go somewhere else. So if we don't have the talent, but the good news is that there is a lot of talent in India, so of course the capital will come here from India and from outside, but if you don't have the talent, nothing will happen.
Do you agree, Nitish, to what he said? I mean, Siddharth, would you like to agree to disagree or whatever? I mean, your comments on this. Do you think, he means to say that there has to be a boost to skills and talent. So do you think, I have met Jensen Wong, he said there are multiple, developers and UI developers, AI developers in the country, and they are outside. They are building for other companies. It's time that we start building in India. Do you think so?
Yeah, I think we can both answer that. Maybe I can go first. I think, I agree that, hey, that capital will find you and that we need to invest also on the foundation level, right? It can't just be that, hey, that it needs to be a holistic approach. I think where both in the form of like, hey, if there are tax incentives, if there are like, hey, education programs, which are special skill building programs that are there in the country, that will significantly increase the kind of companies that will be coming out of the country. I think the question that we're trying to sort of address, if I may re-emphasize, is that, hey, what and how can we have more and more gaming companies coming out of the country? So I think it needs, there's no one thing that will do. So you need education in terms of like, also I think even now, I think Nitish was bold enough to start a gaming company 25 years ago in India, but not many people would dare to do that. We started much younger. We were still 10 years old only as a company. So, and back then, and even today, I think if you go around and asking a parent that, hey, would they let their child become a gamer, the situation has changed drastically now. But 25 years ago, man, it's really, really hard. So whatever the government is trying to do will definitely help. And I think there is some little flywheel that is going on with some gaming companies that are here, and that will do their job. But it needs to be also sort of like done at a platform level. And that platform here is India. In terms of how do you sort of like allow for more to come?
Yeah, no, I just want to add, and I can see some young, game developers in this room, so it might be helpful for them. I think the times have really changed, and this is the time under the sun for the Indian gaming industry. And from my personal experience, right, and I'll share it openly, 20 years, I must have met maybe 1,000 investors. 997 probably told me no out of that. 3 lucky ones told me yes. But jokes apart, the reality is, I must have raised 12 crores in 20 years. In the last 6 months, I have raised 1,700 crores. So I think it's a sign. I sometimes look in the mirror and say, boss, I'm the same guy. but things change, time changes. I think globally and domestically, people are recognizing now gaming as a real industry and are willing to bet serious amounts of money on it. Not play money, but serious amounts of money on it.
Yeah, I mean, now I think, gone are the days where Nazara used to look for investors. Now, Nazara is investing and acquiring companies, with 14 acquisitions, and you're on the spree of acquisitions and mergers which are taking place recently from Pokerbazi, which took place. What metrics do you look at before investing in a gaming tech company?
I think it's all the standard metrics here. You look at we are not investing right now at a very early stage. So we're investing in companies that are beyond a certain level of scale and revenues. So therefore, we have enough material to look at, whether it's the financial numbers, whether it's a core product KPIs, and KPIs will be the same, right? Monetization, retention, et cetera, And if it fits into our overall picture, and we believe that the founders are someone we can really work with to build this out over a few years and create a lot of value together, those are the companies we try and invest in. It's not rocket science.
Right. Coming to you, Peter, building video games requires investments, right? So building a battle royale game, like what Crafton did, how much money, according to you, does one require to build a game like that?
I think if I can add, before you answer that, I think first you should ask him that how many attempts did it take for Peter to actually churn out Angry Birds. So it's not just a question of money alone, but it's also a question of like how much grit does one need.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was speaking to one of the battle royale game developer. He told me that the game is like a dragon. We have to feed it till it lasts. So, just wanted to understand your perspective on that, Pete.
Yeah, but I think that, the answer could be anything. And I think it's also what I said previously, that no matter how much money you throw at it, if you don't have the right team, it doesn't matter. And not all teams, not all companies succeed. So no matter if you have like unlimited funding, if it's not to be, it's not to be. So I think it's very difficult to say that, okay, like you need 1 million or 10 million and then, success is guaranteed. It's not. And I mean, if you look at the Rovio story, I mean, we made 51 games in 6 years, and then the 52nd game was Angry Birds. Like at any given point of that journey, that okay, of course, if you'd ask company, yeah, the next one will be, like the big one and the next one. So you never know. And I think that that's also that people who tell you that they know how to make hit games, they don't. So I think that that's, it's kind of like nature of the business, and there's no like guarantees. But I mean, that's in any business, that I mean, you need to do a good job and you need to know what you're doing. Maybe then on still back to this, I think that it's very important when you look at the growth of the industry that we need role models. So it was, like Ilkka, at Supercell, and they're probably like the most successful games company ever. They were looking at what we were doing at Rovio, and then they were saying that, hey, if the Rovio guys can do that with Angry Birds, so can we. And then they did, and they made it like 10x bigger. And I think that's kind of like how it happens. But if you don't have anybody, has been successful in games, then you will have to start with that, okay, what do you do? We make games. Yeah, but like, when are you going to get a real job? And I think that with Rovio and Angry Birds, that question went away. Then people say, hey, wow, great, huge, massive business. And then after Supercell and 10 billion in valuation, then it's like a bit like of a moot point that, okay, when are you going to get a real job? So I think that a lot of these things, but then when you have successful companies, you will have more successful companies. I mean, that happened in Finland. Once we have Rovio, Supercell, then, Small Giant, and, long list. And hey, 5.6 million people in Finland, and we created like massive number of game studios, and I think, I don't know what it is now, but it used to be 6% of the global mobile games market was made out of Finland. So that's, again, anything is possible, but you need to have the role models, you need to have the attitude, and one thing maybe on the talent, we had 47 different nationalities working at Rovio when I was there, now it's more than 50. So we just hired the best people, we didn't care if they came from India or Finland or, Afghanistan, it doesn't matter, you just want to have the best people.
Right. So, Nitish, also one thing that I wanted to understand. When NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang came to India, he spoke a lot about the potential that he sees in Indian gaming industry. But he also spoke about how India needs to deliver broadband to homes. Do you think India is still an untapped market? And how does a publisher look at India as a market, both for PC and both for mobile games?
Look, I had the opportunity to meet Jensen on his visit for quite some time. And of course, all of this will happen, broadband and all will happen. I think, as you can see, India is progressing very fast when it comes to all this digital stack, India stack, broadband. I'm not worried about that at all. I think it's extremely important for everyone in this room and also outside, all the developers here, to really be seized about AI and what it's doing to the industry and how it can reinvent the wheel. I think it's a big boon for indie developers because they can bridge the knowledge gap. For example, we've always said India doesn't have design talent, and maybe this Siddharth can talk more about whether it has or not, because really will have a lot of more insights. But wherever the gaps are, I think AI can fill those gaps very fast and make indie developers very powerful. They can compete, process very fast. So it's very, very important for everyone to think AI first, AI native. At least in my opinion, we've built an AI task force internally, trying to reinvent the game development process using not only our tools, but outside tools also. But we are creating this whole stack that all our studios are going to use. And once it is ready, I'm going to open it up to all developers also, so that they can just use it, right? Because I think that can be a game changer when it comes to the Indian game industry.
Siddharth, how do you look at it? I mean, do you think there is a still untapped market where broadband has not reached to households? How do you look at that a gaming industry or a certain developer can bank on it for a growth in the country?
See, I think that question has possibly many pivots to it. But I think if I have to answer it in the context of the conversation that we're having right now, I think the broadband has not reached households, possibly from the perspective of the kind of computing that is needed on a remote level, and the data transfer that is needed to sort of like, hey, achieve whatever you want to achieve to cover the skill gap is possibly not yet met. So I think if that happens, that will definitely increase. But that alone will not solve the problem. I think whatever Nitish is talking about, that hey, having an AI task force, looking at the AI stack, and sort of like, hey, making it available for the developers, both internally and externally, is something that will allow to sort of like, hey, bridge the delta that is there. See, our country did not have a lot of games coming out of the country. We did not play digital games as much. So there is a lack of depth in those special fields. Now what AI allows us is to sort of like, hey, quickly cover that gap. Now that AI is not sort of limited to India. It allows all the countries globally, everywhere, to sort of like use it to their advantage and cover that delta. So some advantages that we possibly had for last couple of years might actually go away also. And it is up to us how we leverage that, how quickly we embrace, adapt, start using it to stay in the game.
Right. I'll come one by one to you guys. What should be the right monetization model for a video game in country like India? Should that be ads? Should that be subscription based, or it should be in-app purchases? I'll start with Siddharth and we'll speak to Nitish and then Peter.
Well, I think probably Nitish is better to answer that because most of our games are outside India.
I was just saying right monetization model is whatever makes the money.
Okay. But what makes money for you?
Well, for us, it's very diverse. So, I mean, we make money on subscriptions, we make money on in-app purchases, we make money on advertising, we make money on media rights because we develop esports content and license it to Star Sports or whatever, Amazon Mini TV, etc. Right? So, it's a very diverse monetization strategy. From an India perspective, of course, the reality is the only thing that's made a lot of money is the real money gaming space. I know a lot of folks here are not fans of that space, so we won't dwell too much on that. But propensity to pay in India is increasing. Hopefully it will increase faster. I do see a cultural shift happening with the younger generation. I see it in my own home with young kids. For them, this is primary source of entertainment, right? So I think that's happening. We are also trying to innovate. So today we announced a launch of G-commerce, which is where we are trying to facilitate e-commerce transactions within the game while people are playing games by providing relevant products at the relevant time. And I think that we could monetize better through affiliate revenues compared to the ROS ads we are running today on the programmatic networks. So we'll see. I think innovation is required. India first. If you're talking of India monetization, then India first thinking is required when it comes to monetization. That's what I think.
Peter?
Yeah, but I love that answer, and I think that like whatever makes money is the right model. So that's kind of like very good answer, and you shouldn't limit yourself there. So I think that always we should keep in mind that and I know that we have many game developers here in the audience, but we always have to remember that who cares if you made the best game and nobody knows about it. So that's like first thing. And then, then if people know about it, but it doesn't monetize at all, then it's also like a bit difficult to sustain. So we need to keep all of these things in mind when we actually develop the game. So it's not just about making the game. We have to look at the whole thing. And if you look at like the Angry Birds example, at peak, half of our revenue was non-game related. So basically licensing, the whole merchandising, everything. And then people were telling us, but hey guys, like you're a games company, you should focus. But then I always said that we are very, very focused, but we are focused on providing Angry Birds branded experiences in all forms and shapes for our fans. And sometimes that experience took the form of a physical toy or a t-shirt or a funny hat. But guess what? That made like a lot of money. And I mean, I'm not familiar with your G-commerce thing yet, but the thing here is that there are very, very many ways of monetizing when you have something that has a lot of fans. And I intentionally use the word fan, not like customer or user or something like that, because we need to have as an ambition that we create fantastic games that have fans. And when you have fans, the fans want to spend money on many things in many ways. Maybe they subscribe to, a video series, or maybe they pay something in-app, or whatever it might be. And that's also part of the innovation. So there is not like a single model that will work for everybody. So you should also keep an open mind, and there's lots you can do to innovate in kind of like the monetization thing. So it's not like you have 3 options, you have unlimited.
Right. So when we, keeping aside RMG and talking about casuals and video games that we talk about, India is yet to make a mark globally in terms of games, be it, I mean, I don't know how publishers are taking it. Games launch very late in India, and there is lack of publisher interest that we see. How do you look at the global gaming market and India as a market? When will India make a mark on that list in terms of users and in terms of revenue?
So I beg to differ slightly there. I think current year, 15% of the global downloads actually came from India.
1.5.
15%. And that number used to be much lesser 6-10 years ago. So I think in terms of downloads, in terms of daily active users, they're already seeing India as a great market. So that's a given, that India is already making a mark. I think the second point of like a revenue monetization, all of those things will follow as GDP increases, as disposable income increases, as monetization models like I think ads model is already working. I think IAPs, subscriptions, all of those, I think we know of companies that are sort of taking tens of millions of dollars out of India from Indian users actually paying in those games that are built outside India. So that is already working. It's just a matter of like, hey, whether an Indian company has cracked it to actually sort of take a lot of IAP revenue in yet or not. I think that's the answer to that question is one of the questions that you asked is like, hey, what does it take to actually build a PUBG out of India? When that will happen, that will not just take the revenue from India, but also globally. Because when you build a product like that, which is successful in India, it'll be successful elsewhere in the world as well.
Nitish? So basically, there are publishers like say Call of Duty or Valorant. They have, they have huge users. Number of users in US, North America, etc. And compared to 2022 nations, India doesn't make a mark there. When will India make a mark on such numbers in terms of revenues and users?
No, I think for the global publishers, India is still not a very big priority. It's getting there, but it's been on the horizon for a long time because of monetization limitation. It's a lot of users but don't monetize, which is fair enough. I think let them look the other way. Our developers here will hopefully, get some time to build high quality games and monetize. I think from our perspective, of course, global developers are welcome and they will do what they will do. From our perspective, from my perspective, from Nazara's perspective, it is about how the Indian developer will monetize in India and how the Indian developer will monetize in a big way globally. Of course, global players will come here. We've launched something called Nazara Publishing. We're working with a lot of global players to say that, okay, we'll help you locally to understand this market. But I think there's no doubt in my mind that in the next few years, and sooner than later, this absolute numbers will start becoming meaningful enough for everybody. And that's what we're all here for.
Peter, just want to have a third view on POV on the gaming industry in India. What according to you is Indian gaming industry facing challenges of? Is it uncertain regulatory policies around gaming, or it's spending on in-app purchases, etc. So how do you look at the challenges of gaming industry in India right now?
I think there are always challenges, and that's like the way it is. But I think that we need more role models. I think that is like really, really important, because then people will see the success and there will be more success. So I think that's something that is super important. Then I was just like thinking about like question here, because if you then look at the most successful like Indian IP exports, and broader, not just like games, and I think that I don't see any reason why we couldn't have the most successful IPs of India created in games that will be globally relevant, and that's something that of course will require the role models and a lot of work and all of that. But I don't see any reason because it's a very, very global market. And if you look at, I mean, okay, we created Angry Birds in Finland, it went everywhere, 93% of the Chinese population knows the brand, 91% here in India, 9 out of 10 people on the planet. So, you know, with digital distribution, with mobile, everybody having a device, I mean, you can make those kind of things happen. And I think that, you know, there's kind of like no reason why not. But then you really need to have this global mindset. And I think one challenge, you know, like, and especially now with India developing very fast and all that, that many people will be happy with, okay, you know, I'm number one in India, so, you know, like it's enough. And I think China, same problem, that many of the Chinese companies, and I mean, they had a language barrier, of course, as well, but, you know, if you're number one in China, it's kind of okay. And our US friends, you know, they're also happy being number one in the US, but then because of language and, you know, like the whole, you know, soft power and culture, it kind of happens that then, you know, a lot of people speak English and then the products kind of like travel and they like end up everywhere. So I think that it just requires like more of a holistic approach and really having that ambition that, hey, we're going to create something that's going to be, you know, like the biggest IP ever, you know, not just in India, but like globally. So I think that that's, again, role models, mindset, attitude, ambition. So I would encourage, you know, like all the developers here to really think that, hey, of course you can make something that will be number one, not just in India, but globally. And if you have that as an ambition, you will get there. If you don't have the ambition, yeah, okay, then it's also okay if you are just number one in India, but you can do better.
Siddharth.
I think India is suffering from a problem of like, hey, too much is happening all at the same time. We've got I think we got late to the party. We've got e-commerce wave, we've got the payments wave, we've got the gaming wave, we've got the entire delivery wave, we've got the EV wave. We've got so many things happening parallelly. That is, and of course now, to top it all, we've got the entire AI side. So the density of talent that is needed is actually missing. And if there is not much evangelizing or the role models for it, I feel that we'll not do good or justice to any of these. I don't know like how to solve this. I can tell you that that problem is there. So, well, there'll be few companies that will come out in each of these things, but like, hey, our country with so many people that we've got has far more potential. So I think that energy that is there, that needs to be directed in the right way. And if that is done, then yeah, there's a lot of opportunity.
How do you look at it, Nitish? I mean, there are also challenges around regulatory policies, right? We are seeing that there will be a policy called Digital Privacy and Data Protection Act coming in the country, which prohibits taking your data offshore. Do you think that will, you know, affect the gaming industry as well? I mean, you cannot take your data outside, and you know, you have to build your data centers in the country, and you know, the user data cannot go out. Do you think somewhere down the line that will also hamper gaming industry in the long run?
No, I don't think so. I think having the right policies that protect the consumer is important to build a strong foundation, right? And I think the government largely has been thinking through policies, etc., and trying to put it in place. So I don't see any issue with that. I think as long as there's clear framework of policy, I think business will be built around it. It's sometimes better than operating in gray areas, which later on come and create much larger problems, like the RMG case in point, right? So I think faster clarity of policies is going to be helpful, maybe painful in the very short term, but much better for the medium to long term.
I don't want to discuss more on RMG because once we get out, they're gonna, you know, ask me questions that, you know, why are you asking questions on RMG? So yeah, we have a lot of budding, you know, developers in there. We'll listen to all these three stalwarts. You know, what would be your, you know, go-to advice to, you know, these developers in there to succeed in game development and, you know, grow their companies? It's a broader question.
Well, I think, see, I think I was just like pondering on what Nitish said. Just I think I was still with the thread. I'm a little slow there, but if I were to just sort of like add to that and then come to the question, see, I think one was what we were talking about, that hey, India is having a problem of too many things all happening at the same time. The second is the data regulation and everything that is happening is not just happening in India; it's happening globally as well. And in any industry, when it's growing really fast, I think it takes a while for the regulatory world to catch up, and then it sort of like, hey, tries to sort of bring on like GDPR or CCPA or all these policies that are out there. So it's not like 10 years or 25 years ago. So so now today, when developers need to build, they need to think of, they need to keep that in mind, that that is going to come. Of course, it hits you after a certain point, but you have to think short term and long term both. I think versus a few years ago, you could have just think short term and approach it like that. Number two is the competition, because as any industry matures, the developers come out of every part of the world, and the unit economics start to sort of change. So again, for that also, play for the long term, is what I would say.
Nitish?
I think for developers, keep your head down, focus on real metrics versus vanity metrics. So focus on not how many downloads my game has, but what's my retention KPI, for example, or monetization KPI. Keep plugging. The more investors reject you, the more you take up the challenge, right? The potential is there. And just keep plugging away, I think. And of course, like I said, AI, I think taking up AI in a very serious manner right now is very important. I can have many more suggestions, but this is what comes to my mind right now.
Peter?
Yeah, I think that just need to keep in mind that the most important thing is that you make great games. I mean, that's what only thing that matters in the end.
Right. Last question to Nitish. You also started WTF Fund, right, with Nikhil Kamath. You know, what's the status? How many people have you, invested in and, backed in their companies? Would you like to throw some light on that as well?
Sure. I don't know if any of you saw the WTF podcast with Nikhil Kamath on gaming. Did anyone here saw it? Yeah, a lot of people here. So I think we got a message from Nikhil for you here. Anybody can switch on that message? I was trying to get him here, but he couldn't make it. I think he's in Goa or wherever. I don't know where. These days he spends too much time in Goa. Difficult to get him out of there. There's no volume.
Audio, please.
With technology. Hi guys, gaming is a growing sector. It intersects with technology, culture, creativity. I believe the sector could play a huge role in the future digital engagement in India. The decision to collaborate with Nazara was simple. They bring a lot of expertise and a proven track record and deep connections within the industry. By joining forces, we can leverage our strengths and back innovative Indian startups. This fund is all about enablers who are building interesting gaming solutions. We're thrilled about what's ahead and look forward to working with the winning founders who share our dream and who believe in the gaming growth story in India. Stay tuned and watch the next interesting chapter. Hi guys, gaming is
Shop, yeah. I think it's great to have, our well-respected tech founders or outside of the gaming world get interested, like Nikhil and Nitin Kamath of Zerodha, and, help promote this industry, whether it's through their very popular WTF podcast, as you can see, right? So many have seen it. It's really been widespread. Or actually come in and see how they can help this industry or participate in this industry. So I think the whole WTF fund was just a gesture to support young developers and just peer ahead and how can we build on top of it. So early days there. and hopefully it will develop into something much larger. I think we'll just take the opportunity to call the WTF team up here and announce the first two winners
Amazing.
from
Are they here?
that fund
Okay, great.
right here in front of you guys.
So we are the WTF Fund. We are India's first non-dilutive grant for founders 25 and under. But this is not a grant. This is us collaborating with Nazara to build out what we think of as the future of gaming. Like Nitish said, like Peter said, two things matter. One is the kind of role models that we can build out for the rest of the industry, and two, the fact that we are publicly and openly supporting gaming, not just as a sector, but also as an ambition to have. So I'm going to invite Sigma Games on stage, first of all. Could we get a round of applause for them, please? And the second winners are Northern Games. Could we have the team up, please? Yes, of course. Yes. We're also going to invite first Sigma and then Orion to speak about what they're building. So, guys, over to you.
So, yeah, the Nikhil Kamath sir and the Nitish sir podcast, I think we also, and I made my parents watch that episode. And I was just telling them, oh, wow, they are investing in companies. But I never expected at that time that we'll be the ones standing on the stage receiving the award. So I would like to thank you for the organizers, for the partners, for believing in us. And that validates the work, the kind of work that we are trying to do. So thank you so much, and thank you for the opportunity. So Sigma Games, we started back in 2015. It was just Govardhan and me back then. And we were in the indie studio, bootstrapped. We have been making games for past 10 years. We have grown from just 2 people to now 10 people. Previously, we have released a game called The Bonfire for Second Lands and The Bonfire 2 Uncharted shows, which has given us a little bit success. We have about 10 million downloads cumulatively. And currently, we are working on a game called Metal Haven. It's an action strategy 4X game, which is a free-to-play game for mobile and PC. So it's a game about, it's a strategy game where you go from planet to planet, build your base, and aliens are attacking your base. And you have to defend your base, and you're creating an army, and then you take part in the space battles with other players. So that's pretty much about the game. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, could we have Northern Games? No? Yeah.
Hello. Thank you for this great honor. It's a privilege to be standing here and getting this reward from Nazara and obviously Nikhil Kamath sir as well. So we, Noreen Games, we started back in 2019, and we have been developing PC and console games before that, but in 2019 we got together. We thought we'll create our own PC and console game studio from India. And we have been, for the past 2 years, developing a game called Alien of Ancients. It's a dinosaur survival and simulation game. It's open world and open-ended. It's a game where you play as a dinosaur, and you can play it with your friends, or you can play it by yourself. So it's entirely up to you on how you want to play the game. So the aim was to create something that would be unique, that would stand out, and it's not something that is restricted to people. Anyone can pick it up and play it. So yeah, that's the game, and thank you once again. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Let's do a quick Q&A with the panelists. If someone wants to ask questions around investments, acquisitions, etc.
Only asking about Nazara share price is not allowed.
Yeah.
Check. You talked a lot about talent moving between, or developing talent and creating role models within the
Can you please
Indian
stand up and maybe, yeah.
Yep, there you go. So you talked a lot about talent and role models. I was curious, what's your take on movement of talent in the global gaming and game dev ecosystem? So from India elsewhere, from elsewhere to India, and how does that impact the Indian market?
Did you get the question? Did you get the question?
Yeah.
Okay, then why don't you answer?
I think it'll be helpful if you just repeat the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that it was about like the global movement of talent. So basically talent coming here, talent going elsewhere. And I think that I always say that we want to see more brain drain and more brain gain, so both. And I also mentioned that when I was at Rovio, we had 47 different nationalities. Now it's more than 50. I think that always when you have more diversity, more perspective, you end up making better products, better games. And I think that that's something that is very important. And we know that we have a lot of very talented Indian developers. Actually, I guess some people who used to work at Rovio from here that were here like last night. But anyway, so I think that that's a good thing. And I think it's also a great way to learn, because there's differences between the different ecosystems. So you will learn different things here than, you know, like say if you go to the US or, you know, Finland, or you go to, I don't know, London. So I think it's very important that we have that mobility and that people move around. So I think it's a very good thing.
Anyone else? Last question, maybe? No one? Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. Yeah, please.
The question is that I wanted to know about the WTF hackathon and the WTF grant, and what is the big idea behind it? At a surface, we know that, okay, they organized a hackathon, they are giving these grants, they are rewarding games. But if Nitish of Nazara can share a little more about what is the thought process or the big idea behind it, that would be great. Not just for me, but for everybody, it would be educative to learn and know more.
Yeah, I think the big idea, especially about the WTF fund, was to, one, provide seed capital and recognition for young indie developers. Because the more we support and encourage at the grassroots level, the better it is. So I think that was one aspect, putting good developers or doing some good stuff on the spotlight, and then they will keep growing, right? So this is a very initial stage. This came off very impromptu of the podcast. It wasn't something that was planned. Nikhil randomly likes to have his podcast in a very, I mean, he doesn't give us any forward warning, right? So he throws questions, and one of the questions was, how much will you guys invest? So being a public company, I don't know how much I can commit myself without going to my board. So I said, we'll invest 1 crore. So Nikhil said, I'll match that. And that's how it started, but that's how it just started. The idea is now, can we take this seed and create into a much larger tree? Can we raise more capital, allocate more capital? Can we get a proper team in place which can operate at this grassroots level, work with developers, fund them, back them, recognize them. I think that is the intent.
Okay, thanks a ton, Nitish, for the good answer.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I believe we are taking home something which is more insightful, and this will help somewhere down the line to the budding developers. Thank you so much, Siddharth, Nitish, and Peter. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
The next panel is going to be Game Changer, revolutionizing the gaming landscape. We have Yashash Agarwal from GameZop, Prabhu Ganeshan from Gaming Glance, Digital Experience, Vinay Srinivas from Hammerplay. It's going to be moderated by Biplav Belwal from Nukebox.